You feel that familiar exhaustion after another day of social maneuvering. The mental energy spent decoding hidden agendas, protecting your image, and playing along with unspoken rules leaves you completely drained. This endless game is a trap, promising control but delivering only fatigue. There is another way to win, a method that requires no manipulation or pretense. The ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers a powerful path to genuine success, built not on drama but on unwavering inner strength. By the end of this, you will have a complete toolkit of 25 Stoic approaches to navigate life from a place of unshakable calm and authentic power. We will uncover how seeing obstacles as opportunities can disarm your biggest rivals, and why remembering your own mortality is the ultimate secret to focus. What part of your life feels most ready for a change this profound that feeling of exhaustion often comes from a single, misplaced focus? We pour immense energy into trying to control the uncontrollable. We try to manage other people's opinions, force a specific outcome at work, or even demand that the world itself conform to our plans. This is the source of the game and the reason it drains us so completely. The first and most fundamental Stoic approach to winning without playing is to radically shift that focus onto the only thing you truly command, your own mind. The ancient Stoics called this the dichotomy of control, and it is the bedrock of your new strength. True power is not found in manipulating external events. It is found in mastering your internal judgments, your desires, and your own actions. Everything else, from the weather to the mood of your boss, is outside your direct command. Think about a major work project. You can control your effort, you can control your preparation, you can control the hours you dedicate and the quality of your work. But you cannot control the final outcome. You cannot control whether your client is pleased or if a competitor submits a better proposal. When you tie your peace of mind to that uncontrollable outcome, you set yourself up for anxiety and frustration. You are playing a game you cannot win. Now apply this to a personal relationship. You can control your own honesty. You can control your kindness and your respect. You can control how you show up for that person, but you cannot control their feelings. You cannot control their reactions or their loyalty. Trying to do so is like trying to command the ocean tides, a futile effort that leaves you battered and exhausted. When you release your grip on what you cannot control, you reclaim all the energy you were wasting. That energy can now be directed inward to fortify your character, to refine your judgments, and to choose your actions with clarity and purpose. This is how you win, not by controlling the board, but by mastering the one piece on it that is truly yours, yourself. This power over your own mind extends into a second profound practice, one that might sound counterintuitive at first. We are taught to avoid thinking about what could go wrong to stay positive, but Stoicism offers a different path, a technique called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. This is not an exercise in pessimism. It is a tool for building unshakable resilience and a deep, enduring gratitude. By consciously and calmly considering the potential losses and hardships we might face, we disarm them of their power to shock us. We remove the fear and desperation that so often push us into playing manipulative games. Imagine you are preparing for a crucial conversation with your partner. The old way, the game-playing way, involves rehearsing your arguments, trying to predict their counterpoints so you can win. You are focused on controlling their response. The Stoic way is different. Before the conversation, you take a moment to sit quietly. You consider the worst realistic outcome, not with panic but with calm acceptance. You think, what if this discussion leads to an argument? What if we cannot find common ground right now? What if they become upset? By visualizing this potential hardship, you do two things. First, you build emotional calluses. The sting of a difficult outcome is lessened because you have already faced it in your mind. You have already accepted it as a possibility. This means you can enter the conversation not from a place of fear, wanting to control it, but from a place of strength, wanting to communicate honestly. Your goal shifts from winning to understanding. Second, and perhaps more importantly, this practice ignites a powerful sense of gratitude for what you have right now. While visualizing a potential disagreement, you become acutely aware of the value of your current harmony. You appreciate the peace you share in this moment. This gratitude grounds you and makes you less needy, less desperate for a specific outcome. You stop trying to force the conversation to go your way. Apply this to your career. Think about the project you are working on. What if it fails? What if the client rejects it? By calmly premeditating this possibility, you are not inviting failure. You are preparing for it. This mental preparation transforms anxiety into pragmatic energy. Instead of lying awake at night fearing the worst, you have already met the worst in your mind and seen that you can endure it. This frees you to focus on doing your absolute best work without the paralyzing weight of attachment to the result. You become impossible to manipulate because you are no longer terrified of losing the deal, the promotion, or the approval. You have already faced that loss and found your own stability within yourself. This is how negative visualization wins without games. It replaces the desperation to control external events with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life brings. This quiet confidence, born from facing potential losses, reshapes your very definition of success. The third approach moves beyond resilience to the heart of the Stoic victory, the radical idea that the only true good is your own moral virtue. For the Stoics, winning is not measured by wealth, status, or external approval. It is measured solely by your character, by your commitment to the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When you internalize this standard, the entire landscape of competition transforms. The temptation to use underhanded tactics evaporates because compromising your integrity is the only real loss you can suffer. Think about a promotion at work. The conventional game involves networking strategically, taking credit for shared successes, or subtly undermining a rival. You might win the position, but what have you truly gained if you sacrificed your honesty or fairness along the way? You have traded your inner goodness for an external reward, a hollow victory that will always feel fragile. Now consider playing by the Stoic definition of winning. Your goal is not simply to get the promotion. Your goal is to act with excellence in pursuit of it. You exercise the virtue of courage by sharing innovative, perhaps unpopular, ideas. You practice justice by giving your colleagues full credit for their contributions. You demonstrate temperance by managing your ambition so it does not turn into ruthless greed, and you use wisdom to navigate the entire process with discernment. If you are promoted, you have won twice. You have advanced your career without compromising your soul. If someone else gets the role, you have still won because you acted with integrity throughout the entire process. Your character remains intact and even strengthened. This is how virtue makes game playing irrelevant. You are no longer trying to beat other people according to their rules. You are striving to live up to your own highest standard. The opinion of your boss, the size of your paycheck, these become preferred outcomes, but they are not the ultimate measure of your success. Your success is internal. It is the quiet knowledge that you were courageous when it was difficult, that you were just when you could have been selfish, that you were wise when others were panicking. This inner compass frees you from the desperate need to control outcomes. You no longer have to manipulate a situation because your primary objective is already within your grasp: to act rightly in this very moment. The race is not against others, but against your own potential for pettiness and fear. When you cross that finish line with your virtues intact, you have already won everything that truly matters. This radical acceptance of what happens is the fourth Stoic approach, a principle known as amor fati, the love of one's fate. It is the decision to not merely endure the events of your life, but to embrace them, to welcome every obstacle and setback as if you had chosen it yourself. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Amor fati is the practice of becoming that fire, transforming every circumstance, especially the difficult ones, into the very fuel for your growth. When you stop fighting reality, you unlock a profound power. Consider a project at work that suddenly collapses. The game-playing response is to look for someone to blame, to complain about the unfairness, or to desperately scheme a way to save face. This reaction drains your energy and traps you in a cycle of resentment. The Stoic response, guided by amor fati, is to look at the failed project and say, "Good. This is now my material to work with. What can this failure teach me about my planning, my assumptions, or my team? How does this open a door I had not considered before?" By loving this fate, you cease being a victim of circumstance and become the architect of your response. You are no longer trying to scheme your way out of the difficulty. You are learning your way through it. The obstacle is no longer a barrier on your path. It has become the path itself. Apply this to a personal disappointment, like a friendship that fades away. You can spend months replaying conversations and assigning fault, a painful and exhausting game. Or you can embrace this fate. You can love the space that has opened up, not because the loss is pleasant, but because it creates room for new connections or for a deeper understanding of yourself. This is not about pretending that pain does not exist. It is about recognizing that even pain has a purpose in shaping who you are. Amor fati eliminates the need for complaint because complaining is a rejection of reality, a futile attempt to change the past. It removes the urge to blame because you see every person and event as part of the necessary training for your character. When you love your fate, every single thing that happens to you is woven into the fabric of your strength. You stop seeing the world as something to be conquered and start seeing it as a partner in your own transformation. This embrace of fate naturally quiets the need to constantly judge the world around you. A fifth Stoic approach invites you to pause that automatic verdict and instead seek to understand. The core insight is simple yet life-altering. It is not the events themselves that cause you distress, but your judgments about those events. When someone cuts you off in traffic, the event is just a car changing lanes. Your judgment that the driver is rude, disrespectful, or personally targeting you is what ignites the anger. Your own mind creates the storm. This principle extends deeply into your relationships. Every time you feel offended or betrayed, you are reacting not to the raw action, but to your interpretation of its meaning. You judge a friend's quiet evening as a personal rejection. You interpret your boss's critical feedback as an attack on your worth. These judgments are the fuel for conflict, the very engine that drives the tit-for-tat games we play. We feel slighted, so we retaliate with a cold remark. We feel undermined, so we plot a subtle countermove. This cycle is exhausting and ultimately unwinnable. The Stoic alternative is to consciously suspend that judgment. Before you label someone's action as good or bad, pause. Ask yourself, what might be motivating this person? What unseen pressures, fears, or misunderstandings could be influencing their behavior? This is not about excusing poor behavior. It is about understanding its source, which immediately drains it of its personal sting and its power to control your emotions. Imagine your colleague takes credit for an idea you both developed. The immediate judgment is one of betrayal, of theft. This judgment compels you to either confront them aggressively or to begin scheming how to reclaim your credit, pulling you directly into a political game. Now apply the pause. Instead of judging, seek to understand. Perhaps your colleague is acting from a place of deep insecurity, terrified of losing their job. Maybe they genuinely forgot your contribution in the stress of a presentation, or perhaps they have a different perspective on how the idea evolved. None of these understandings require you to accept the behavior. You can still calmly and clearly assert your contribution later, but by seeking to understand first, you have prevented your own mind from erupting in rage. You have maintained your inner peace. You have chosen a response based on wisdom rather than a reaction based on a raw, untested judgment. This shift transforms every interaction. The person who speaks harshly is no longer your enemy, but someone who is likely suffering. The competitor who plays dirty is not a villain to be defeated, but a person trapped by their own poor character. When you see the world this way, the impulse to play their game vanishes. Why would you engage in a petty battle when you can see the deeper currents at play? You win not by defeating them, but by refusing to be pulled into their turmoil. Your calm understanding becomes your greatest strategic advantage. This calm understanding reveals a surprising truth that our deepest fears are not of people but of discomfort. We scheme and manipulate because we are terrified of feeling lack, of experiencing hardship, or of losing our comforts. The sixth Stoic approach confronts this fear directly, not by avoiding it but by voluntarily seeking it out. This is the practice of voluntary discomfort, a deliberate training that builds an immunity to the very fears that make us play games. By regularly and willingly experiencing minor hardships, you forge a mental toughness that makes you impossible to manipulate through threats or scarcity. Imagine you are negotiating a salary. If you are secretly terrified of financial instability, that fear will leak into your demeanor. You might accept a lower offer out of desperation or use aggressive tactics because you cannot bear the thought of walking away. You are playing a game from a position of weakness. Now, consider what happens if you have practiced voluntary discomfort. You have already experienced sleeping on a harder mattress, skipping a few meals, or taking cold showers. You know in your bones that you can handle discomfort. This knowledge changes everything. You can negotiate from a place of authentic strength, not because you are bluffing, but because you have a genuine, proven resilience. You can state your value clearly and calmly, fully prepared to accept a no. The other party senses this unshakable foundation and often responds with greater respect. The practice works by stripping away the power of comfort. When you intentionally choose a simpler meal, you are not punishing yourself. You are reminding your nervous system that luxury is a preference, not a necessity. You are proving to the deepest part of your mind that you can be happy and stable with less. This dissolves the desperate need to cling to your current possessions or status. You become less likely to use underhanded tactics to protect your job because you are no longer haunted by the specter of what happens if you lose it. You have already looked that possibility in the eye and found yourself still standing. Start small. Choose to walk up the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Drink a glass of water when you crave a sugary drink. Sit in a slightly cooler room for an hour. In each of these tiny acts, you are not just building discipline, you are sending a powerful message to your own psyche. You are declaring that you are the master of your comfort, not its slave. This newfound freedom is your ultimate strategic advantage. When others are scrambling to avoid any hint of hardship, you remain calm and clear-headed. You are no longer controlled by the fear of loss, which means no one can use that fear to control you. Your actions come from choice, not from desperation, and that is a power that no game can ever defeat. That same freedom from fear opens the door to your most powerful source of clarity. The seventh Stoic approach asks you to hold a simple, profound truth in your mind: you are going to die. This is memento mori, the remembrance of death. It sounds dark, even morbid, but the Stoics saw it as the ultimate tool for cutting through life's noise. When you carry the awareness of your own finite time, the petty social games and manufactured dramas lose their grip on you instantly. Imagine you are about to enter a meeting where you know people will be posturing for status. You feel the old anxiety rising, the urge to prove yourself and to manage their perceptions. Now hold the thought that your life is limited. Feel the weight of that truth. Suddenly, the need to win a trivial argument in that room evaporates. The desire to impress a colleague whose name you might not even remember in 5 years seems absurd. Your focus sharpens with razor-like precision. You ask yourself, is this conversation meaningful? Is it true? Is it necessary? If not, why waste a single moment of your precious, irreplaceable life on it? This practice does not encourage a grim pessimism. It ignites a fierce and urgent gratitude for the time you have. Think of a disagreement with a loved one. The old pattern might be to stubbornly hold your ground, to keep score, to play the game of who is right. But with the awareness of mortality, a deeper question emerges. Is being right more important than being connected? Would you rather win this argument, or would you rather have one more moment of genuine peace and understanding with someone you cherish? This perspective dissolves pride and replaces it with a profound desire for reconciliation and love. Memento mori is the ultimate filter for your actions. It helps you distinguish between what is truly essential and what is merely ego. That project you are procrastinating on, that difficult conversation you are avoiding, that creative idea you are too scared to share, death's reminder whispers a simple question. If not now, then when? This is not a threat, it is a call to action. It pushes you to stop waiting for the perfect conditions, to stop seeking permission, and to start living with purpose today. Your time is the one resource you can never get back. When you live with that truth at the forefront of your mind, you stop playing games because you realize they are the costliest distraction of all. You begin to win the only race that matters, the one against your own procrastination and fear, making every day a masterpiece of intentional living. Your words are the one thing you can fully control in any conversation. While you cannot command how others will react, you can master what you choose to say and how you choose to say it. This is the 8th Stoic approach: to speak only what is true, what is necessary, and what is kind. When you impose this threefold filter on your speech, you instantly step out of the petty dramas that consume so much energy. Gossip, flattery, harsh criticism, these are the common weapons in social games, tools used to build alliances or undermine rivals. By refusing to use them, you build a fortress of personal integrity that others come to rely on. Think about the last time you attempted to share a piece of office gossip. The game-playing part of you might see it as a way to bond with a colleague or to gain a small advantage. But apply the Stoic filter. Is it true? You may have only heard a partial story. Is it necessary? Does sharing this information improve the situation or help anyone? Is it kind? Would saying this contribute to someone's well-being, or would it likely cause harm? When you run your words through this gauntlet, most gossip simply withers away before it can be spoken. You are left with silence, which is far more powerful than any unverified rumor. The same principle applies to flattery. We often use excessive praise to manipulate a situation, to curry favor with a superior, or to disarm a potential critic. But this is just another form of game playing, a transaction where you trade insincerity for a hoped-for reward. The Stoic alternative is to speak with honest appreciation when it is warranted, but to never inflate your words for personal gain. This builds a reputation for authenticity that becomes your greatest asset. People learn that your praise is genuine and therefore valuable. They learn that your silence is not disapproval but discretion. And when you must deliver difficult feedback, the filter of kindness ensures you do so with respect for the other person's humanity. You are not attacking their character, you are addressing a specific behavior with the goal of improvement. This disciplined speech transforms your relationships. Instead of being a player in a network of whispers and insincere compliments, you become a pillar of reliability. Your words carry weight because they are rare and well considered. In a world of constant noise, your thoughtful silence and purposeful speech become a quiet superpower. You win trust without asking for it, and you influence others not through manipulation, but through the sheer force of your integrity. Your reputation is not a possession you can protect, but a shadow cast by your actions. The 9th Stoic approach cuts to the heart of our social anxiety. urging you to define yourself not by the opinions of others, but solely by the quality of your own deeds. When your sense of worth is built upon the shifting sands of external validation, you become a prisoner to every compliment and a victim of every insult. You are constantly playing a game, performing for an audience whose approval you can never truly control. Stoicism offers a far sturdier foundation to anchor your identity in your own virtuous efforts. Imagine you complete a major project at work. One colleague praises your brilliance while another dismisses your contribution as mere luck. If your self-worth is tied to their opinions, you are thrown between euphoria and resentment, an emotional roller coaster you did not choose to ride. The Stoic, however, remains steady. Their focus is internal. They ask a different set of questions. Did I act with integrity throughout the process? Did I give my best effort? Was I fair to my teammates? If the answer is yes, then the work was a success, regardless of the applause or the criticism that follows. Your value was secured the moment you chose the right action. This internal compass makes you immune to the two most common tools of social manipulation, flattery and insult. When someone showers you with excessive praise, you can receive it gracefully without letting it inflate your ego. You know that your worth was already established before they spoke. Their flattery becomes mere data, a reflection of their own perspective, not a confirmation of your identity. Conversely, when someone insults you, the sting is neutralized. Their words are just noise, an external event that has no power to redefine who you are. You have already judged your own actions as virtuous, so their negative opinion holds no weight. This is not about becoming arrogant or unfeeling. It is about achieving a profound inner stability. Think about a parent raising a child. The parent knows that doing what is right for the child, setting firm boundaries and offering unconditional love, might sometimes provoke anger and shouts of "I hate you." If the parent's self-worth depended on the child's constant approval, they would be a terrible parent, yielding to every demand to feel loved. But the strong parent acts from principle. They define their success by their consistent, loving actions, not by the child's fleeting and often irrational opinions. This is the same strength you can bring to your career and relationships. You stop performing for a promotion and start focusing on doing excellent work for its own sake. You stop seeking constant reassurance from your partner and start measuring the health of the relationship by your own contributions of kindness and respect. The game of social validation vanishes because you are no longer a participant. You are a self-contained unit of purpose, moving through the world guided by your own virtue, undisturbed by the praise and blame that swirl around others. Your actions become your only lasting signature, and that is the one thing no one can take from you. That unshakable foundation you build for yourself transforms how you see the world itself. Every single barrier you face, every roadblock that appears, is not a stop sign but a redirection. This is the 10th Stoic approach, seeing every obstacle as a raw material for your progress. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This mindset shift is one of the most practical and powerful tools in your Stoic arsenal. It turns your biggest challenges into your greatest teachers. Think about a modern example, a failed business venture. The conventional view sees this as a pure loss, a waste of time and money, a mark of personal failure. This perspective leads to bitterness, to blaming the market or a partner, and to a fear of ever trying again. It is a dead end. Now apply the Stoic lens. See the failed business not as a failure, but as an intensive, real-world education. That venture taught you crucial lessons about cash flow that you never would have learned in a classroom. It revealed weaknesses in your own leadership style that you can now consciously improve. It connected you with certain people who proved unreliable, giving you a clearer filter for future partnerships. Most importantly, that specific door closing forced you to look in a new direction, one you would have otherwise ignored. Perhaps the collapse of that first business is what pushes you to identify a smaller, more focused niche, leading to a second venture that is perfectly suited to your true skills and passions. The obstacle of that initial failure did not block your path. It literally advanced your action by forcing a necessary and better course correction. This principle applies to everyday frustrations too. You are stuck in a traffic jam. The obstacle is the delay. How can this advance your action? It advances it by giving you 20 minutes of unexpected quiet. This is time you can use to listen to an inspiring podcast, to plan your day with intention, or simply to practice patience and observe your own reactions without judgment. The traffic jam becomes a training ground for your equanimity. A critical colleague is not a nuisance to be defeated, but a whetstone to sharpen your own ideas and communication skills. Their resistance forces you to clarify your thinking and to find more compelling ways to express yourself. Your growth is forged in the friction they provide. When you start to look for it, you see that every single impediment carries a hidden gift. Your job is not to fight the obstacle, but to uncover the opportunity woven into its fabric. The problem is not the problem, your perspective is the problem. By shifting your view, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as an alchemist, turning the lead of hardship into the gold of wisdom and strength. From that cosmic vantage point, the entire theater of human striving shrinks to a silent, distant stage. The 11th Stoic approach, known as the view from above, is a mental exercise that deliberately creates this profound shift in perspective. It is a form of meditation where you consciously pull your awareness back, imagining yourself rising above your immediate surroundings, above your city, until you see the whole planet suspended in the vast quiet of space. In an instant, the argument that felt so urgent, the social slight that burned with indignity, the professional rivalry that consumed your thoughts, all of it recedes into insignificance. You see the sprawling cities and winding rivers, the shifting weather patterns over continents, and the countless tiny lives, each playing out their own brief stories. Against this backdrop, your personal dramas lose their gravitational pull. The need to win a petty argument, to get the last word in, to prove a point to someone who will themselves be gone in a blink of cosmic time, seems not just futile but almost comical. This practice does not dismiss your life as meaningless. It frames it within its true context, freeing you from the self-importance that fuels so many social games. Consider a lingering resentment you hold toward a coworker. For weeks, their comment has festered in your mind, shaping your interactions and tempting you toward subtle retaliation. Now engage the view from above. See your office building from 1,000 feet in the air, then 10,000. It becomes a mere speck among countless others. See the entire timeline of human history stretching behind you and ahead of you. That one comment, that one moment of friction, is less than a single frame in an endless film. This perspective does not tell you to ignore the issue, but it drains the emotional poison from it. You can address the situation if needed, but you will do so from a place of calm clarity, not from a swollen ego demanding satisfaction. The game of tit for tat requires you to believe that your small corner of the world is the entire universe. The view from above shatters that illusion. It reminds you that you are a tiny, yet integral part of an immense and awe-inspiring whole. Your energy is too precious to waste on minor squabbles when there is a vast, beautiful world to engage with honestly and courageously. When you return your attention to the ground, you carry a piece of that silence and scale with you. The things that used to trigger you now seem smaller, and your path forward feels clearer, untangled from the trivial conflicts that once demanded so much of your time. The character you forge in solitude is tested and shaped by the company you keep. This 12th approach is a quiet but powerful principle, one that Seneca himself emphasized with great clarity. He warned that we cannot spend time with cruel or deceitful people without damaging our own soul, just as you cannot walk through soot without getting your clothes dirty. The people you allow into your inner circle are not passive observers of your life. They are co-authors of your character. Their values, their language, their very approach to conflict will inevitably seep into your own. To win without playing games, you must be deliberate about your social environment. Ask yourself a simple but profound question about the people closest to you. Do they make you better, or do they simply make you feel better in the moment? There is a critical difference. A flatterer who always agrees with you might feel good, but they erode your capacity for self-honesty. A colleague who constantly complains about the boss fuels your resentment, pulling you into a vortex of negativity that is just another kind of game. These are the toxic influences that Seneca warned against. Their manipulation and drama act like a slow acid on your resolve, making it harder to maintain your stoic calm and clarity. Now consider the alternative, surrounding yourself with people of good character. This does not mean you only seek out people who are exactly like you. It means you seek out those who embody the virtues you are trying to cultivate. Find the friend who speaks with honesty and kindness, even when the truth is difficult. Gravitate toward the coworker who focuses on solutions rather than blame. These are the people who reinforce your highest self. When you are tempted to indulge in gossip, their silent integrity is a gentle rebuke. When you consider a shortcut that compromises your ethics, their example stands as a living reminder of the path you have chosen. Winning without games becomes a shared endeavor, not a lonely struggle. You create a small community of mutual reinforcement, where your collective strength makes the manipulative tactics of others seem pointless and weak. Your good company becomes a sanctuary, a place where you can practice virtue without having to constantly explain or defend it. This careful curation of your social world is not an act of elitism, it is an act of self-preservation and strategic growth. You are building an ecosystem where your stoic principles can thrive, ensuring that the inner fortress you are constructing is not undermined from within. That space between a trigger and your response is where your true power lies. This 13th Stoic approach turns that fleeting moment into a sanctuary of choice. It is the practice of acting from principle, not reacting from emotion, a shift that dismantles the entire engine of social games. When someone provokes you, your initial surge of anger or hurt is not a command, it is merely a signal. It is data. The old reactive pattern is to fire back immediately, to match their tone with your own, to escalate the conflict in a desperate attempt to win. This is the heart of game playing, a chain reaction of emotional reflexes where everyone loses. The Stoic alternative is to insert a deliberate pause. In that quiet gap, you reclaim your sovereignty. You move from being a puppet jerked by external strings to a conscious author of your own story. Imagine your partner makes a careless comment that stings. The reactive path is a sharp retort, a cold shoulder, or a list of past grievances launched in retaliation. This is a game, a battle for emotional supremacy that leaves both people wounded. Now insert the pause, take a breath, feel the emotion without becoming it. Then, from that centered place, ask yourself a simple question: what action aligns with my principles right now? If your principle is to foster understanding, your action might be to calmly say, "That comment felt hurtful. Can you help me understand what you meant?" If your principle is to maintain your own peace, your action might be to silently acknowledge the comment as their issue, not yours, and to let it pass without taking root. The outcome is entirely different because the source of your behavior has changed. You are no longer reacting to their provocation, you are acting from your own virtue. This applies with even greater force in a professional setting. A rival spreads a subtle rumor about you. The reactive, game-playing response is to immediately start a counter-rumor, to confront them publicly, or to scheme for revenge. All of these actions trap you in their messy world. The Stoic response begins with that same sacred pause. You feel the initial shock, the betrayal, but you do not let that feeling dictate your move. You choose your action based on wisdom and justice. Perhaps the wise action is to have a private, direct conversation with the person, not to accuse but to understand. Perhaps the just action is to simply continue doing such excellent work that the rumor becomes irrelevant on its own. By acting instead of reacting, you refuse to play their game. You set the rules of engagement, and those rules are rooted in your character, not in their chaos. Your calm, principled response becomes a silent declaration of your own power, a power that no external event can ever take from you. Every single person you meet is your instructor, though few of them hold a formal title. The 14th Stoic approach asks you to treat every situation, especially the painful ones, as a classroom designed for your specific education. A betrayal is not just a wound, it is a masterclass in discernment. A failure is not a verdict, it is a practical lesson in process and resilience. An insult is not an attack, it is a pop quiz in emotional regulation. When you adopt this mindset, you transform life itself into a continuous training ground where you cannot lose, you can only learn. Think of a time you felt deeply betrayed by a friend. The immediate pain is real, and the Stoic path does not ask you to deny that feeling. It does, however, invite you to look past the sting and ask a more empowering question. What is the curriculum here? The lesson might be in teaching you to set healthier boundaries, revealing a pattern of overlooking red flags you can now learn to recognize. The lesson might be in patience, showing you how to sit with a difficult emotion without letting it dictate a vengeful reaction. Perhaps the deepest lesson is in forgiveness, not for their sake, but for your own peace, teaching you how to release a burden that was never yours to carry in the first place. By extracting this wisdom, you turn a personal loss into a permanent gain for your character. The betrayal did not break you, it educated you. Apply this to a professional failure. A project you poured your heart into is rejected. You can camp out in the land of frustration, replaying every detail and blaming external factors. Or you can sit down with the experience like a student with a complex textbook. What specific chapter did this failure teach? Maybe it taught you that your communication with the client was unclear, a lesson you can now carry into every future proposal. Maybe it revealed a gap in your own skills that you are now motivated to fill. The failure itself becomes the raw material for your next, more informed success. You are not the victim of the event, you are the active student, diligently taking notes for your own advancement. This relentless search for the lesson accomplishes something profound. It reframes your entire relationship with difficulty. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The first question casts you as a passive victim of fate. The second positions you as an active, curious participant in your own growth. Even the most mundane irritations become micro-lessons. The long line at the grocery store is a drill in patience. The rude comment from a stranger is an exercise in maintaining your inner calm. When you live this way, you are always winning because every single experience, without exception, deposits another coin in the treasury of your wisdom. The world is full of hidden instructors, and your progress is guaranteed the moment you decide to become a perpetual student. That classroom of life extends far beyond your personal circle, connecting you to every other student on the planet. The 15th Stoic approach invites you to see yourself not as a solitary player in a competitive game, but as a citizen of the world. This is the ancient concept of cosmopolitanism, the profound understanding that we are all members of a single, global human community. When you internalize this truth, the very idea of winning at someone else's expense begins to feel like a hollow and self-defeating victory. How can you truly win if your gain creates a loss for your own community? This perspective shatters the illusion of separation that fuels so much manipulation and rivalry. Imagine you are competing with a colleague for a single promotion. The game-playing mindset sees this as a zero-sum battle where their loss is your necessary gain. You might be tempted to hoard information, subtly undermine their work, or take sole credit for collaborative successes. But the cosmopolitan view reframes the entire situation. You and your colleague are both part of the same team, the human project of creating value and living with purpose. If you win the promotion through underhanded means, you have not just beaten a rival, you have damaged the integrity of your shared community. You have fostered distrust and resentment, making the entire workplace weaker and less cooperative for everyone, including yourself. Your personal victory becomes a collective loss. Now consider the alternative. What if you compete with integrity, sharing ideas freely and giving honest credit? Even if your colleague gets the promotion, you have strengthened the bonds of your professional community. You have demonstrated that excellence and fairness can coexist. This builds a culture where everyone is lifted, and your own long-term success becomes intertwined with the health of the whole. Your reputation as a collaborative and principled person will open doors that manipulative tactics could never unlock. This worldview also cultivates a deep, natural empathy. When you see a stranger struggling, you do not look away with indifference. You see a fellow citizen of your world, and your instinct is to offer help, not because you expect a reward, but because their well-being is, in a very real sense, connected to your own. A society where people help each other is a society where you too are safer and more supported. The Stoic citizen wins by elevating the whole, understanding that a rising tide lifts all ships. Your ambition is not extinguished, it is purified and redirected. You still strive for excellence, but your goal is to contribute your unique value to the human community, not to tear others down to claim a larger piece of a fixed pie. You stop playing a small, selfish game and start participating in the grand, collaborative project of human progress. This web of citizenship finds its deepest expression in a concept the Stoics called sympatheia. It is the unshakable belief that the universe is a single, living organism, and every person, every event, and every object is a deeply interconnected part of that whole. You are not a solitary island, but a vital thread in a vast cosmic tapestry. When you pull one thread for personal gain, the entire fabric shifts, often in ways you could never predict. Understanding this mutual interdependence transforms your strategy for living from a short-term game of selfish grabs into a long-term practice of harmonious cooperation. Think of a forest ecosystem. A single tree might seem to be in competition with others for sunlight and water, but beneath the surface, their root systems are interwoven in a complex network, sharing nutrients and sending warning signals about disease. A fungus attacking one tree is met with a collective defense. The forest thrives not through ruthless competition, but through this silent, profound collaboration. Your life is the same. That small, selfish lie you tell to get ahead at work does not just affect you and your target. It sends a ripple through your entire professional network, eroding the baseline of trust that makes collaboration possible. It might get you a temporary advantage, but it weakens the very system that supports your long-term career. Your short-sighted win makes the entire environment more hostile, including for yourself. Now apply sympatheia to a personal goal, like building a successful business. The game-playing mindset sees competitors as enemies to be crushed, but the Stoic, understanding interconnectedness, sees them as part of the same economic ecosystem. A thriving market has many healthy players. By acting with integrity, by competing on the quality of your service rather than through sabotage, you help to elevate the entire industry. You build a reputation that attracts the best partners and the most loyal customers. Your success becomes interwoven with the health of your community, creating a foundation that is resilient and enduring. This principle even changes how you view your own moods. A moment of anger is not a private event. It is a disturbance you send out into your shared social space, affecting your family, your co-workers, anyone you encounter. Your inner state is not yours alone. It is a contributing force to the collective atmosphere. This awareness brings a profound sense of responsibility. You begin to ask a new question before you act, not just what is good for me, but what action strengthens the whole. What choice adds to the collective trust, the shared knowledge, the common good? When you operate from this place, the desperate need to win at games vanishes. You are playing a different, much grander game, one where your victory is measured by the strength and harmony of the network you are part of. Your greatest power lies in nurturing the connections that sustain you. Your inner world is the only territory you have absolute sovereignty over. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor who faced constant betrayal and war, wrote extensively about this inner fortress, a citadel of the mind that no external force can breach unless you lower the drawbridge yourself. This 17th Stoic approach is about actively constructing that fortress and standing guard at its gates. Your peace, your values, your core judgments, these are the treasures you protect inside. When you master this, the attempts of others to manipulate you with praise, blame, or drama become utterly futile. They are simply shouting outside the walls of a castle they cannot enter. Think about a time someone tried to provoke you with a cruel remark. The comment itself is just a sound, a vibration in the air. It only gains power the moment you internalize it, the moment you let it past your gates and accept it as a truth about yourself. You are the gatekeeper. You hold the sole authority to decide which thoughts and impressions are granted entry into your inner sanctum. Building this resilience is a daily practice of vigilant filtering. Before any external event, any piece of news or another person's opinion is allowed to influence your state of mind, you must examine it. Ask yourself, is this within my control? Does this reflection align with my core virtues? A critical email from your boss is just text on a screen. You can choose to see it as a personal attack, letting it stir up anxiety and self-doubt within your walls. Or you can examine it at the gate. You can decide it is simply information about a project that needs adjustment. You take the useful data, the feedback that helps you act with excellence, and you allow that insight to inform your work. The emotional charge, the tone of disappointment, you leave outside. This is not suppression, it is supreme discernment. You are not ignoring reality, you are processing it with wisdom instead of raw reactivity. This makes you immune to psychological games because the manipulator's primary tool is your own emotional response. They say something designed to trigger your insecurity or your anger, expecting you to react predictably. When you instead meet their provocation with the calm assessment of a gatekeeper, their strategy collapses. They cannot get a rise out of you because you have not granted their words entry into your emotional core. Your inner citadel remains quiet and strong, and their noise remains exactly where it belongs, outside. Your unshakable peace becomes your greatest power, a silent declaration that you cannot be controlled by anything but your own reasoned choice. Your inner citadel is built with the strongest material available, your own capacity for reason. This 18th approach calls you to actively use your logos, the very rational principle that Stoics believe orders the universe itself. Your mind is not just a random collection of thoughts and impulses. It is a fragment of cosmic intelligence, a tool designed to cut through confusion and see the world with unclouded clarity. To use your logos is to make decisions based on this inherent logic and virtue, silencing the noisy demands of raw emotion, social pressure, or the temptation to deceive. Think about a major life decision like changing careers. The emotional pull might be a desperate craving for more prestige or a fear of being left behind by your peers. The deceptive strategy might involve exaggerating your qualifications on a resume to get a foot in the door. Both of these paths are reactions, not reasoned responses. They are moves in a game where you are letting external forces dictate your actions. Now engage your logos, sit down with a blank page and apply pure reason. What are the factual realities of this new career path? What is the true financial trajectory? What skills do I genuinely possess, and which ones would I need to develop? Does this path align with my core values of service, creativity, or stability? This process is calm, systematic, and utterly devoid of panic or pride. You are not asking what will make me look successful. You are asking what is true and what is the most virtuous path forward for the person I am and wish to become. The answer that emerges from this reasoned inquiry is your guide. It carries a weight and a clarity that emotional whims can never match. This same power transforms your daily interactions. A friend pressures you to invest in a venture that feels rushed and unclear. The social pressure to agree to be a team player is intense, but your logos is your internal compass. It calmly assesses the proposal, identifies the logical gaps, and recognizes the misalignment with your principle of financial temperance. You can then decline with gracious firmness, not from a place of fear or stubbornness, but from a place of reasoned conviction. You are not rejecting the person, you are honoring the truth as your reason sees it. Every time you choose logic over a reactive emotion, you are strengthening your connection to this governing principle of the universe. You are aligning your small, individual will with the grand, rational order of things. Life stops being a series of chaotic battles to be won through cleverness and starts being a coherent journey to be navigated with wisdom. Your decisions become trustworthy because they are built on the bedrock of reality, not the shifting sands of feeling. This is the ultimate strategy for winning without games, because when you are guided by reason, you have no need for deception. The truth, clearly seen and courageously acted upon, is the most powerful advantage you will ever possess. Reasoned choices build a life, but some things simply refuse to bend to your will. The 19th Stoic approach is a practical surrender to reality itself, a conscious practice of accepting what you cannot change. This is not passive resignation. It is an active, strategic redirection of your energy from a brick wall you cannot break to the open door right beside it. The process begins with a clear and honest assessment of the situation. You must look at the facts without the filter of your wishes or your fears. Your company is undergoing a restructuring and your department is being dissolved. The first step is to acknowledge the reality without sugarcoating it or spiraling into catastrophe. This is happening. My role as it currently exists is ending. This factual foundation is crucial because it prevents you from wasting energy on denial or futile resistance. Next, you draw a bright line between what is outside your control and what remains within it. You cannot control the corporate decision. You cannot control the global market forces that led to it. These are the unchangeable facts, but within that reality, your sphere of influence is still vast. You can control how you update your resume and portfolio. You can control your outreach to your network. You can control your attitude, choosing to see this not as a personal failure but as a forced redirection. You can control the effort you put into your job search and the grace with which you treat your colleagues during the transition. This is the moment of power, the conscious release of resistance. It is a mental and emotional exhale. You stop railing against the unfairness of the situation. You stop obsessing over the executives who made the call. You let that all go, and in releasing that struggle, you free up 100% of your mental bandwidth to focus on your sphere of influence. Your energy, which was being burned up in frustration, is now channeled into productive, forward-moving action. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are a pragmatic problem solver working with the materials you have been given. This three-step framework applies to any setback. A romantic relationship ends. First, assess the situation clearly. It is over. Second, identify control. You cannot control the other person's feelings or decisions. Third, release resistance. Stop replaying what you could have done differently to change the past, and channel your energy into your own healing, into reconnecting with friends, and into becoming a wiser partner for the future. Acceptance is the art of making peace with the immovable object so you can focus all your strength on moving everything else. It is how you stop fighting the current and start steering your boat. The constant noise of society demands a reaction from you, pulling you into its rhythm of complaint and competition. A 20th Stoic practice offers a radical alternative, the deliberate cultivation of silence and solitude. This is not about loneliness or withdrawal, but about creating a sacred space where you can hear the one voice that matters most, your own inner guide. In that quiet, the frantic energy of social games loses all its power over you. Think about the last time you spent an entire day surrounded by people, their opinions, their demands, the constant buzz of conversation and media. By the end, you likely felt drained, your own thoughts scattered, and your resolve weakened. You may have found yourself agreeing to things you did not truly want, or getting drawn into gossip you later regretted. This happens because you have been breathing the atmosphere of other people's minds, and you need to step outside to get fresh air for your soul. Solitude is that fresh air. It is the necessary retreat where you recharge your virtue. Carve out just 30 minutes each morning before the world wakes up. Sit in a quiet room or take a walk without headphones. In that silence, you are not avoiding your responsibilities, you are fortifying yourself for them. You give your mind a chance to settle, to process the previous day's events without the pressure to immediately respond. The urge to prove yourself, to join in the latest office drama, or to seek validation online simply fades. It is replaced by a calm, steady clarity about what you truly value and what actions align with those values. This practice makes you a spectator to the social circus rather than a frantic performer. You see the gossip for what it is, a meaningless noise that people make to feel connected or important. You observe the status competitions and realize they are races toward a finish line that does not exist. From the quiet vantage point of your own company, these games appear as they truly are, exhausting and ultimately empty. When you return to the world from your solitude, you carry that quiet with you. You are less likely to be baited into an argument because you have tasted a more profound peace. You are less tempted by gossip because you remember the richness of your own inner dialogue. Your words become more considered, your actions more intentional. You win without playing simply because you have remembered there is a more rewarding game being played in the quiet of your own mind. A game where the only person you need to impress is the person you are becoming. Your morning sets the tone for every interaction that follows. Long before the sun rises, Seneca would sit in the quiet of his chamber and undertake a specific form of mental training. He called it his philosophical preparation, a deliberate rehearsal for the day ahead where he would envision the specific challenges he might face and, more importantly, how he would choose to meet them. This is not about anxious worry, but about calm, strategic foresight. You are programming your mind for virtue before the world has a chance to program it for reactivity. Before you even leave your home, you can disarm the entire cycle of social games. Begin by finding a few moments of stillness. As you sit with your eyes closed, bring to mind the people and situations you will likely encounter. Perhaps you have a difficult meeting with a critical client. Instead of dreading it, you actively visualize it. You see yourself sitting at the table. You hear the client raising their voice or dismissing your ideas. Now, here is the crucial part. You do not visualize yourself getting defensive or launching into a clever rebuttal to win the argument. You visualize yourself responding with the 4 cardinal virtues. You see yourself exercising wisdom by truly listening to the core of their complaint. You see yourself demonstrating courage by calmly stating the facts without aggression. You see yourself acting with justice by seeking a fair solution for both parties. And you practice temperance by managing your own frustration, choosing a measured response over an emotional outburst. By mentally walking through this scenario and anchoring your response to virtue, you are building a neural pathway. You are creating a default setting that is stronger than your initial impulse. When the real meeting happens and the client does become difficult, it is no longer a shocking surprise that triggers your game-playing panic. It is a familiar scenario, one you have already navigated successfully in your mind. Your response is not a raw reaction, it is a remembered intention. You have already won the internal battle, so there is no need to fight an external one. Apply this to a simpler interaction like your morning commute. You mentally prepare for the traffic jam. You set the intention to use that time for patience or for listening to something uplifting rather than for boiling in resentment. You prepare for the coworker who always has a sarcastic comment. You decide in advance that your virtue of kindness means you will offer a genuine greeting, refusing to be pulled into their negative orbit. This daily practice makes you a proactive architect of your character rather than a reactive passenger in your own life. You enter the world pre-armed with clarity, and that clarity is the one tool that makes all manipulation obsolete. The final moments before sleep are not just for rest but for reckoning. As the day settles into silence, the 20-second Stoic approach invites you to light a quiet lantern and look back with honest eyes. This is the evening review, a daily audit of your own character where you ask two simple, piercing questions. Where did I go against my own values today? And how can I mend that tear tomorrow? This is not a practice of self-punishment, but of profound self-respect. It is how you ensure your growth is continuous and your commitment to a game-free life is renewed each night. Think about a moment from your day that still carries a slight charge, a conversation that felt off. Perhaps you snapped at a colleague out of frustration, or you remained silent when a piece of gossip was shared, passively endorsing it. In the quiet of your review, you do not brush this aside. You hold it up to the light of your principles. You acknowledge that your action, the sharp retort, was a failure of temperance. Your inaction, the silent listening, was a lapse in justice. There is no room for excuses here, only for clear-eyed acknowledgement. By naming the virtue you stumbled against, you strip the event of its emotional power and transform it into a concrete lesson. This is how you close the loop on your mistakes, preventing them from festering into patterns. The second question is your blueprint for progress. How can I improve tomorrow? The answer is not a vague promise to be better. It is a specific, actionable intention. Tomorrow, when I feel that surge of frustration, I will take one deep breath before I speak. Tomorrow, if gossip begins, I will gently change the subject or excuse myself. This turns your insight into a prepared strategy, programming your mind for a more virtuous response next time. This nightly ritual is the ultimate act of personal integrity. It is you holding yourself accountable without any audience or judge. When you make this a habit, you stop needing external validation or criticism because you have become your own most trusted and constructive advisor. The social games of the day lose their power because you are playing a much more important game each evening, the quiet, relentless pursuit of your own moral excellence. Every resource you have can be replaced except one. Your time is the single truly non-renewable asset you possess, and this understanding forms the 23rd Stoic approach to winning without games. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote with piercing clarity about this in his essay on the shortness of life. He observed that people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. When you truly grasp this, the entire structure of social maneuvering reveals itself as a profound theft. It is not just a waste of energy, but a theft of your most precious life. Every minute spent scheming for advantage, nursing a grudge, or performing for an audience is a minute you have permanently lost. It is a piece of your finite existence traded for a hollow, fleeting reward. Think about a long-standing feud with a neighbor over a trivial property line. The game involves constant vigilance, bitter conversations, and legal letters that drag on for months or even years. You might eventually win the dispute, gaining a few extra inches of land, but calculate the true cost. Add up all the hours spent fuming, plotting, and arguing. Those were hours you could have spent reading with your child, working on a meaningful project, or simply enjoying a quiet walk. The land is replaceable. The time is not. By engaging in the game, you have already lost far more than you could ever gain. This principle applies directly to workplace politics. The endless gossip by the coffee machine, the subtle campaigns to undermine a colleague, the mental energy spent decoding every email for hidden meaning, this is all borrowed from your life's account. Seneca would call this being forced to die by installments. You are giving away small pieces of your life to a drama that will be utterly forgotten in a year. The Stoic alternative is to value your time so highly that you refuse to invest it in these petty exchanges. Your focus shifts from winning arguments to preserving your moments. This does not mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means entering them with directness and honesty, aiming for swift resolution so you can both be free to move on to more important things. It means letting go of the need to have the last word, because the time required to get it is more valuable than the satisfaction of saying it. When you begin to measure your days in this way, your priorities undergo a radical shift. The lure of drama weakens because you see it for what it is, a cheap distraction from the urgent work of building a life of virtue and purpose. You start to ask a new and powerful question before engaging in any conflict. Is this worth a piece of my life? The answer, almost always, is a quiet and resounding no. The constant audit of your time forces a profound shift in how you perceive the people around you. Your 24th Stoic approach is to actively look for the seed of good intention in everyone you meet, even when it is buried under layers of poor behavior. This practice is not about naive optimism or becoming a doormat. It is a strategic reframing that protects your own peace and shatters the cycle of reactive games. When someone acts with hostility, your first instinct is to see a villain, an opponent to be defeated. This judgment immediately pulls you onto their battlefield, where the only moves are attack and counterattack. The Stoic asks a different question before engaging. What good, however misguided, was this person actually seeking? A colleague who takes credit for your work is not merely a thief. They are a person acting from a deep, often unconscious desire for security, recognition, or respect. Seeing this does not excuse their action, it explains it. And in that explanation, you find your freedom. You are no longer reacting to a monster, but to a flawed human being driven by a universal need. This completely changes your response. Instead of mirroring their negativity with a counterattack or a scheme to expose them, you can act from your own center of strength. You might choose to have a calm, private conversation where you state your contribution clearly, not to punish them, but to establish a boundary rooted in justice. Because you see the good intention behind their bad action, your tone lacks the venom of personal grievance. You are addressing a behavior, not annihilating a person. This measured response is utterly disarming. It denies them the dramatic conflict they may have been subconsciously expecting. The game cannot continue because you have refused to play your part. The cycle is broken. Apply this to a critical family member. Their constant nitpicking feels like an attack, but what is the seed of good intention? Perhaps it is a desperate, clumsy desire for you to succeed, born from their own fears of failure. Perhaps it is their only known way of feeling involved in your life. When you look for that seed, the criticism loses its personal sting. It becomes their problem, their limited vocabulary for care. You can then choose to respond with kindness, thanking them for their concern while holding firm to your own path, without getting drawn into a defensive argument. This practice makes you a diagnostician of human struggle rather than a casualty of it. You stop wasting energy on resentment and start using that energy to build unassailable boundaries and respond with virtuous action. You win the deeper conflict by recognizing that the real enemy is never the other person, but the cycle of hostility itself, and you simply choose to step off the wheel. Your final signature on the world is not written in accomplishments, but etched into the lives you have touched by your character. This is the 25th and ultimate Stoic approach, the recognition that your virtue is the only legacy that truly endures. Everything else you build, your career, your wealth, your public reputation, is temporary, subject to the whims of fortune and the erosion of time. But the goodness you cultivate within yourself, the courage, justice, and wisdom you demonstrate in your actions, creates a ripple that outlasts you entirely. This perspective redefines winning as the continuous, private work of moral self-construction. It asks a simple, profound question that can guide every single choice you make. When you are gone, what will remain of you in the hearts of others? Will it be the memory of your clever strategies in a corporate takeover, or the memory of your unwavering fairness when under pressure? Will it be the size of your bank account, or the countless small acts of kindness you offered when no one was watching? The legacy of character is not built in a single grand gesture, but in the countless invisible moments where you choose integrity over convenience, compassion over indifference, and truth over an easy lie. Think of a mentor who profoundly shaped your life. You likely do not remember the specific projects they managed or the exact words of their advice. You remember their patience when you made a mistake. You remember their integrity when they could have cut a corner. You remember their calm strength during a crisis. That is their legacy, a living monument built not of stone but of virtue, and it continues to guide you long after they are gone. This is the game that ultimately matters, the only one where the victory is permanent. By focusing on this legacy, you become impervious to the petty games of the day. Why would you cheat to win a temporary advantage when you know it would permanently tarnish the only thing you will leave behind? Why would you engage in a bitter rivalry when you could instead demonstrate the virtue of forgiveness? Every interaction becomes an opportunity to add another solid stone to your lasting foundation. Your life becomes your masterpiece, a quiet, powerful testament to a different way of being. You win not by defeating others, but by inspiring them through the sheer force of your example, leaving behind a world made subtly better because you lived with purpose. These 25 Stoic approaches are not just ideas, they are a complete operating system for a life of authentic power. This is your roadmap out of the exhausting cycle of manipulation and social games, toward a success that is measured by the strength of your character and the depth of your peace. You now have a toolkit to win any situation by refusing to play, by anchoring yourself in the only territory you truly command, your own mind. The journey begins not with a massive overhaul, but with a single, deliberate step. This week, choose just one of these approaches to practice. Perhaps it is the simple pause before you speak, applying the filter of truth, necessity, and kindness. Maybe it is the evening review, taking 5 minutes to honestly assess where you strayed from your virtues. Do not try to master them all at once. Focus on one. Let that single practice be your anchor in the chaos of the coming days. As you experiment, come back and share what you discover in the comments. Tell us which approach you chose and what it revealed to you. Your story could be the very thing that helps another person find their own footing on this path. Together, we can build a community not of competitors but of fellow travelers, all focused on the only victory that lasts, the quiet, relentless work of becoming more fully and courageously ourselves.